Hello, and welcome to Inspired to Taste. I'm Liz Joy, and today I'll be making a doll dress cake inspired by Little Red Riding Hood. I've always been so enchanted by the story of Little Red Riding Hood, and honestly, one of my very favorite things about her is that iconic outfit. So for this dessert, I'm reimagining the whole look, cloak and dress, as a grown-up designer outfit, recreated in cake. Our edible tale begins with a golden, toasted almond sablé Breton, rich and sturdy like the path beneath Red's hurried steps. This is followed by a cloak of brown butter Italian meringue buttercream, soft, warm, and comforting. Nestled between are layers of almond and rosemary Genoese sponge, light as a whispered warning, soaked in an enchanting and delicious amaretto syrup. And at the heart of it all lies a zesty raspberry compote, bright, untamed, and as bold as the girl in the crimson hood. There are so many layers here, almost enough to match Red Riding Hood's story, each adding texture and flavor to the final tasty tale. You can find all the recipes I used here in the link in the description below. Once the layers have been stacked to perfection, or more often in my case, deemed good enough, I can then shape, crumb coat, and frost the cake using more of my brown butter buttercream. I want this cake to be completely edible, so I used a food-safe mold I found on Etsy to make a chocolate mannequin. This process was an absolute mess because there are all these little openings and I did a really bad job of plugging them, but I still got a very decent chocolate mannequin out of it and am definitely going to try this again. I used poppy paint edible paint to add a couple coats of opaque white to this dress form. This is my favorite brand of white food coloring to paint with. Next, I'm cutting a little platform for my mannequin and attaching her securely to the cake base. I want the skirt to look like it's made from layers of billowy lace, so I'm going to use fondant to create little 3D panels to add shape and volume. I don't like to overpower my cakes with thick layers of fondant, so I roll it as thinly as possible, and I prefer making these little individual panels rather than draping the whole cake in multiple layers. Ideally, you want to let these firm up for a bit after shaping them, but I'm not known for my patience, so I usually have to reshape them as I attach them to the cake. Red's cape is going to wrap around the sides here, so I only need to focus on decorating this front portion of her dress. I'm attaching the panels with buttercream, then carefully coating each with more buttercream to fully blend them into the skirt. I'm not super stressed about getting a really smooth finish on my buttercream. Mostly, I just want to make sure to work vertically so that any stroke marks and texture end up looking like fabric gathers. I'm going to be using toasted almond slices to create a really pretty scalloped edge effect. Aside from adding more whimsy to the design, I also like that this detail gives us added texture and flavor. Next, I'm going to use this fabulous frosting tip that pipes the most beautiful ruffles to pipe a layer of buttercream ruffles that overlap the top of the almonds about halfway. Then I'm going to repeat that exact process for a second tier of ruffles. And then a third and final tier. I want this layer to be a little different, so I'm going to finish it with a brush embroidery effect instead of the piped ruffle. Now I'm going to attach one more layer of almond slices all around the back. These will add a bit of that scalloped edge effect underneath the cape. It's time to work on the bodice. I'm going with a leather look corset, beginning with a peplum style underlayer. I want to crimp these top edges to create a loose gathered effect. And then I'm adding stitch details along the bottom edges for more texture. Then I'm just using buttercream to attach these. And lifting portions of the lower edge a bit to give them a sense of movement. For the main portion of the corset, I used a paper towel to create a pattern. I like this method because the paper towel is soft and easy to manipulate and draw on, and also cheap enough that I can throw away mess-ups without issue. Just like the previous layer, I'm going to use buttercream as glue and gently press the pieces into place. Now I'm using a clay tool to create a gathered effect. And a ball tool to make the eyelets. I'm piping the laces with royal icing, starting with one side, letting them dry a little bit, then piping the other side. And also using royal icing to add dots to the edges for a softer lacy look. If you're enjoying this tutorial, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more whimsical dessert designs. Now for that iconic cape. I'm going to be using thinly rolled fondant again to create a voluminous shape with billowing front edges, and then adding a delicious raspberry velvet texture on top. I'm starting with the sides, making sure to shape and lift the edges to make them look nice and billowy. I'm using dots of royal icing and buttercream to secure the panels in place. Then I'm adding several of my 3D panels along the back for volume. Once I'm happy with all the positioning, I'll let the panels dry a bit. Then I'm going to add a generous coating of raspberry and white chocolate ganache. This ganache has a wonderfully goopy texture, which makes it a great glue for the velvet texture I'll be adding on top. I accidentally handled a couple of my larger panels a little roughly and they started caving in a bit. So I'm propping them up with rolled paper towels to make sure they keep a nice shape while they continue to firm up. For these delicate side panels, I'm switching from palette knives to a large paintbrush so I can spread the ganache a bit more softly. Next up is the velvet texture. For the flocking, I'm going to be using powdered freeze-dried raspberries that I mixed with a bit of red powdered food coloring for added vibrancy. Using a large soft fan brush, I'm applying the raspberry powder by gently pressing it into the ganache and dusting off any excess. Some of this will absorb into the ganache, so I'll go back over any particularly patchy sections with a second coating. I'm going to add a charming little bow detail to the neck of the cape, working with very thinly rolled fondant. I start by cutting strips for the bow loops, then create a gathered effect by folding each narrow end into a W shape. Loop them and pinch the ends together to secure them. And now I can use little dollops of royal icing to attach the pieces directly to the mannequin neck. And now it's finally time to work on the classic oversized hood detail. This took a couple of different experiments, but I decided to start with a simple circle, cutting a flat edge for the front. I then draped it over a piece of piping material to help with the overall shaping. I cut darts into the back, pinching the edges together for a gathered effect. Now I can attach it to the cake using ganache as glue. I'm going to prop this up with a little cookie cutter until it dries enough to add the raspberry velvet. I also went back and added additional side panels here to the edges of the cloak, which helped create a much fuller shape and a prettier drape in the back. Then I just need to ganache and flock these final pieces. Let's take a look at the finished cake and then dig in.
3, 2, 1.